Hey, Ellen. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. I love that people are tuning in from their car and we
Oh,
lost her.
oh, I lost her.
It's all good. She'll come back. Do you guys want to start? You want me to get started or?
Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
do it.
Okay. Okay. So I just hopped on. I actually have to go to hockey, but I'm so disappointed because I wanted to get in on this meal prep. So hence I am in my office and not in my kitchen. My name is Melissa, and I just wanted to introduce this event because I think it is one that we really need first and foremost. And I think that given the price of food and whatnot, I think these ladies are also going to share some tips on how to navigate that. But do know that we have in the works a new event that we're going to showcase at some point in March, probably. That's going to talk all about how we can use everything from our refrigerator before having to go back to the grocery store so that there's no food wasted and therefore no money wasted. So I will just introduce my team here. I have Samantha and Irene. We are part of a team called Team Empower, and we are part of a mission driven company called Juice Plus. We also have a pillar called Tower Garden. And so part of our mission as a team and as a company is to inspire healthy living around the world. And we do that through showcasing ways for people to live easier and better and healthier. So this is just one example of one of the events that we will host. We always have educational talks going on about typically how nutrition and, for example, I'm doing one tomorrow on nutrition and anxiety and burnout and how they kind of work together. But we take the nutrition aspect and we bring in all sorts of things in order to help you live healthier. And we do that through sharing plants. So I will just hold up our capsules here. We are a company 50 years strong. We've been sharing fruits, veg, and berries in a capsule. So that is part of the Juice Plus aspect of it. And like I said, our mission here at Team Empower is to really just empower you to make changes in your life that will help you live easier, help you live healthier, and in doing so, help you thrive, right? So I just wanted to take a minute to introduce them. They have spearheaded this, Irene and Samantha have spearheaded this whole event for you, and they've done such a wonderful job of making sure that you have all of your bases covered in order to have some solid tips in order to prep some food. So I've been a nutritionist for 10, 16 years. And I will admit that food prep is not my biggest strength. But I was thinking a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I need to get back to that. So I'm also a mom of two, really busy hockey family, which means that we're on the road all of the time. And so I do my best. But what I do know is that when I take that time on a Saturday or a Sunday to make sure A, I have food in my house, and B, that maybe some breakfasts or, some dinners, bigger dinners are made so I can have leftovers for lunch, that really, really takes the stress out of eating well throughout the week. So if we are not prepared, oftentimes it's very challenging for us to be able to nourish ourselves in ways that will help us thrive. And so just take what you will from the event, and hopefully you'll be inspired to move forward at least. And I would say, you can't overhaul everything all at once. And so I always say start with one meal. And maybe it's dinners. Maybe you make a couple dinners on a Sunday. When I make a couple dinners on a Sunday, man, we are flying during the week. It's amazing. And then I make a couple more on Wednesday, and then the weekend comes. So take what you will from the event, and hopefully you're inspired to at least start small. All right, ladies, there you go.
Thank you. And I love that. It's such a great tip about trying not to overhaul it all and taking on too much. It's like adding in one thing. So it literally could be, if you're a smoothie lover like I am, taking your bananas, and don't do what I used to do. I used to take the whole banana and throw them in the freezer, and then you're like, wah, wah. You peel them, grab a Ziploc bag. You don't even have to get a knife. You just break up chunks, put it in your freezer, and then they're ready to go whenever you need them. That's something so simple. I did that years ago. And then it was like one more thing. Oh, I could prep my smoothie bags. I could get all the fruit and individually pack them. Or if that's too much, just get your fruit prepped, So you've got a bag of frozen strawberries, a bag of, raspberries, your bananas pre-peeled, but all those little things, they add up to something greater on those busy mornings, because mornings tend to be, no matter who you are, tend to be the busiest, especially if you have little ones, getting them out the door. What's that?
Tanya's freezing her, what are they, blueberries? Sorry to cut you off, Sam.
Yeah, no, it's good. Tanya, are you freezing up your berries for your shakes? Yeah, you are. See, good on you. So it really is, and this is what this is what Irene and I were talking about when we planned this event. It was really interesting because you can imagine I do certain things every week, she doesn't, and there's other things she's doing, and it was so great just having the discussion, because you just kind of get into your rhythm and you don't even think those little things. You're like, oh yeah, that is something, and that saves me a lot of time, and it could save you something. Some things go without saying. You're obviously gonna, when you make your grocery list and you make your meal plan, you're gonna look ahead to the week. Right. So what we do is we get a big white sheet of paper, my husband and I, Mike, and we map out our week. Right. So we know what's going on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, what have you. And so then I can figure out, okay, what nights do I really need something that's pre-made, something that's like leftovers, or something quick, like having breakfast sandwiches or bacon and eggs. You know what I mean? So, picking out those days where you have activities going on, being realistic, because I say that and it may seem like an obvious thing, but if we don't plan ahead, those nights are going to be the nights you're reaching into your freezer for packaged foods. Some of them are great, but there's a lot of things out there that they don't necessarily set us up, or they put us on a craving habit, right? Where you have certain fried foods and then you find yourself kind of set up for the rest of the night, maybe reaching for the wrong things. So if we can plan ahead and think, like Irene was saying to me earlier, even this morning when we were chatting, and interject at any moment, Irene, but there's certain things that you already are doing each week that just make it so much faster for you. Do you want to interject and just maybe share?
Yeah, no, for me, meal prep and having that stress-free and making sure I have like healthy meals, because like Mel, I have a very busy family. Both my kids are in competitive sports, hockey and soccer, and there's really only one night a week where we actually sit down and have a family meal. The rest of the night is you're like divide and conquer. So having like an easy week and prepping, for me, it's like having a really good morning routine. You have to do it the day before, the night before.
Yeah,
it's just, that's just how I operate, because I also work full time. I'm working long hours, so I need to have, even if I have just a few foods prepped or some meat that's marinating in the fridge, like, I'll chop up a big bag of broccoli. When I buy it, I clean it, I wash it, I chop it, put it in a bag. My carrots chopped in a jar, ready to go for whatever meal. Same with my celery, I do the same thing. Just put it in jars and get that ready.
Talk about how appealing that looks. Like even in just a mason jar, it's so simple. But
and then when it's in the fridge, I purposely do it in jars, because when it's in the fridge, you see it. And you don't, it's not buried at the back of the fridge in some container. The kids see it, everybody sees it. And there's always hummus or there's some type of dip. My son is a dip kid, he loves dips. So I'll have my dips in the fridge and we're ready to go. So for me, it's like my morning routine. I have to prep the night before.
Yeah.
Totally. If I know I'm going to work out in the morning, I get my workout clothes ready to go. If I know I'm going to have, a chicken meal, I'm going to, prep my, for today, prep my chicken ready in a bag, and then just add the marinade to it, which we'll do later.
Yes, and we're just about to get started on that, but just to just quickly go back to what we were just talking about. Such great tips. One thing that I also do, so we have Monday night pasta, and I use a lot of zoodles, otherwise known as zucchini noodles. So I don't always have time to do this, but I did yesterday because I was prepping for this event. It took me like maybe 5 minutes. I peeled my zucchinis, spiralized them. Now they're in a bag and there's so much, like they're ready to go. I don't have to deal with the fuss, the muss, whatever. But one big thing that we want to stress is that every single time you sit down, right, to any meal or you're on the go, you want to make sure you're ticking all your boxes, okay? And that means like you're literally looking to make sure you have a protein, you have your fat, you have your fiber, your complex carbs, whether that's like a quinoa, a rice, making sure you have fruits, lots of veggies. That's just make sure you always have that mental note. And that's been a huge change for me, especially when I joined this healthy living mission, because I take the capsules every day and I crave more fruits and veggies, but it makes veggies more prominent for me. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, so I'm always looking for ways just to get more goodness into my dishes. So when you have that in your head, it's something so simple, but every time you sit down, my husband laughs at me because I analyze my food like a hawk, making sure I have every single thing covered off so that it's satiating, it's filling, I'm going to feel good after the meal, and it's going to keep my blood sugar stable. So with that, I'm just going to jump right in, and I'm going to pass the baton over to Irene, who's got a really yummy dish.
Yeah, so for me, something I always have in my fridge is cooked quinoa. And this is what I call batch cooking. I will always have a big container because my daughter loves having quinoa salads for lunch. At school, we'll throw in chickpeas, we'll throw in chopped cucumbers, carrots, whatever veg she likes. Do a quick lemon vinaigrette, and she's set. At least she has something for lunch. Or sometimes I will add it to my smoothies and just add that extra protein and fiber into my smoothies. Sometimes I'll have it just as a breakfast bowl. Instead of having oatmeal, I turn that quinoa into like a warm, nourishing bowl with, seeds and flax seeds and strawberries and whatever fruit I have on hand. We'll toss it into our salads. We'll incorporate it into any soups that I make. I'll use it as a side dish instead of rice, which is what we're going to do with the chicken later on. And yeah, I just have it for whatever, like it's such a versatile food that I always have it ready to go in the fridge. So how I do it is I bake it. And this was something that my mother-in-law taught me years ago. She used to bake her rice, and I was always like, why wouldn't you cook it on the stovetop? And she's like, honestly, it's clean, like it's such an easy way to do it. And while it's cooking in the oven, you have your hands free to do something else. So what I use to do my rice and my quinoa is I just use like one of these little stainless steel, or I call it the Canadian Tire container or casserole dish. So what we're going to do is I always rinse my quinoa before. So always wash your quinoa. There's, stuff that sticks to the quinoa. I like to always have it washed and ready to go. And I'll literally just pop it in here. Sorry for the clanging. Pop it in there. Add some salt. So I'll usually put about, I'm going to be honest, I don't measure, but half a teaspoon of salt. I'll just sprinkle it in. Not too much, because if you have it for breakfast, you don't want it too savory. So the plainer it is, the better, because quinoa, as you add it to all your different meals, it will absorb the flavor. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil. So about 1 tablespoon. Just drizzle that in so it doesn't get sticky. And then you're going to add your water. So same like rice, 1 cup quinoa, 2 cups water, 2 cups quinoa, 4 cups water. So you just double, it's that 1-to-2 ratio. So I've got about 2 cups of quinoa. So I'm really going to add the water here, only because I like to have a lot in the fridge and ready to go through the week. Okay. You can add pepper if you like. I'm not going to add pepper because I'm really just going to keep this super plain. And let's get a spoon. Give that a little zhuzh. Just stir it around. And you pop it in your oven at 375. So if you haven't warmed up your oven, you can do that and then just pop it in when the oven's ready to go. And bake it for about 25 minutes at 375. You'll know the quinoa is ready when all of the water has been absorbed. And when you take it out of the oven, do not touch it. That is the trick to having fluffy quinoa. I will cover it cooked. I will use the lid of this roasting pan. I will cover it. And when I take it out, I'll quickly check to see if the water is absorbed. I'll cover it back up. I'll put it on top of my stove and I will leave it and let it cool. once it's cooled, you can start to fluff it up with a fork. And then when it sits in your fridge, you'll realize that it'll actually start to get even more like fluffier. So then you can add it to all of your different, meals, whether it's salad or soup, whatever that is. And that's it. That's as easy as it is. You just let it now cook in the oven, and then you have it ready to go for the week.
Hey, can I just ask one quick thing? Because I was listening to this very clearly, because one thing I learned, I didn't know you're not supposed to mess around with it and you let it just sit for a while. When do you actually fluff it? Or you don't fluff it at all? Like you would
I wait until it's cooled.
Okay.
I'll wait maybe about 10-15 minutes. I'll literally just let it sit there for about 10-15 minutes, and then I'll fluff it with a fork.
Interesting.
And that's it.
I've never cooked in the oven, so this is also new to me. I love it.
And I suggest you do your rice the same way, and you'll see when it's ready to like take out of the roasting pan, the cleanup is so easy. It will not be sticky. It shouldn't be sticky because you've added a little bit of olive oil. You can add butter if you want to, but I prefer olive oil.
You had me at easy cleanup.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And I like the part where you zhuzh it.
Yes.
Zhuzh it. I use that word all the time, and I have not ever found anybody else that uses that word. So I just had to comment on that.
This is why we're soulmates, Tanya.
We are.
Soulmates. All right. So that's the quinoa. My oven is just preheating, so I'm not going to put it in just yet.
Okay. And I'm just going to interject for a second. If you haven't cooked your meat for the chili today, this is a great opportunity to pull out the meat out of your fridge. I have always pretty much got diced onions in our fridge ready to go because, of course, they're so versatile. You don't have to add it. I just tend to when I cook it because it just adds more flavor. That being said, it's going to go into chili where there's like a gorgeous cacophony of flavors happening in there. So you don't necessarily have to do it, but just put it on at about a medium. Like I think I have mine on at about a level 6 on my stove. And you're just going to get that cooking while we get into the chicken part of the dish that Irene is about to get us making. I'm excited to make this one.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I have my meat going for my chili in the background here. So it's just checking it while Sam was giving me a reminder before I burn it. Okay, so the chicken dish. So this chicken dish, I'm not going to lie, this was part of a meal plan that I've been following for the past 3 weeks with my fitness community. And when I made this chicken for my family, they absolutely loved it. So it's like one of my chicken dishes now that's on repeat. So it's the meal prep maple Dijon chicken with mushroom, quinoa, and zucchini. I know it's a mouthful, pardon the pun, but it is so delicious. So hence why we're prepping the quinoa, because that quinoa part of the dish is, what you can do the night of when you're actually getting your chicken baked in the oven. So I'm going to show you how I make the marinade for the chicken. I have my chicken already prepped in a Ziploc bag. They're chicken thighs. You can use chicken drumsticks. You can use chicken wings. You can even use chicken breast. If you're doing chicken breast, I would suggest that you tenderize the chicken breast, because I find that they get, some of them are really thick and they can get dry. So the chicken is already prepped in the bag. You're gonna grab a bowl, any type of bowl, and you're gonna start with maple syrup, Dijon, and tamari, and olive oil. So I've prepped all of these ingredients already in little ramekins just to make this easy. So you're going to start with, the recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, but you're going to divide that because some of that olive oil is going to be used for the zucchini when you toss the zucchini with olive oil. So I've doubled the chicken because the chicken thighs that I bought are quite small, and I like to have leftover for lunches the day after. So again, going back to batch cooking, both my husband and my son like to have leftovers for lunch. So I'll always make extra for our dinner, so that's ready to go and ready to pack for their lunches. So
interject there for a second. Can I just interject? Yeah. Like, that is such a key point, because I never used to really prioritize my lunches so much. I was so focused on dinners and having leftovers. But it is such a beautiful thing. If you do work from home, or you like the idea of taking in a warm meal to the office, to be able to have that meal ready to go, that's nourishing and super delicious. I always say, like, don't underestimate the power of a really good lunch, because so often we put all this emphasis on dinner, but like, let's be honest, if you have a great lunch, you still have probably a good, how many hours to your next meal? And it's probably the time that you need to be the most productive. So you want to make sure that you're really spending as much, not necessarily time, the opposite, but just taking time to really think it through.
Yeah. And
I love
for us too, you're saving money. Like, my husband will not, buy lunch every day. He'll maybe, he works out of home, so the odd time he'll go and buy lunch. But there's so many people, and I'm pretty sure we maybe used to be them or not, I don't know, but we used to just buy lunch. And if you can prep it the night before and make it part of your dinner, it's really killing two birds with one stone. For me, it is anyway. So having said all that, let's get to the marinade. I have in here, because I double batched my chicken, I am using 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So just mixing that in the bowl, or pouring that in the bowl. Then I will do, it calls for 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. I'm actually adding 5, okay, just because I'm doubling that. So I'm putting the maple syrup, and then it asks for a 1/4 cup of Dijon. So I've done a little over, just a little under a 1/2 cup. So popping that in. A spoon for this one, it's a little thick. And I just use like a regular Dijon, nothing fancy. Get that in. And then the tamari. So the tamari, I like to buy the gluten-free tamari. Tamari is like soy sauce. So I buy the gluten-free one. I try and buy the less sodium. In this case, I couldn't find it, so I'm using just the regular one. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of tamari. I think I've added in maybe 3.5 here. Just because this tamari tends to be really salty, because it's not the sodium-free one. So again, we're just gonna zhuzh this up in the bowl. Just give it a good mix. Having a whisk is a good idea. And then what you're gonna do is literally just pour it in the bag with your chicken and massage into the bag. And that's, your marinade is done.
I love how simple it is. Like, there's not very many ingredients. Which is awesome.
No, not many. They're pretty clean. If you wanted to add a few spices to this, I would suggest maybe a little bit of garlic powder, maybe a little bit of ginger powder, to really give it that Asian flair.
Oh, the ginger would be really interesting.
Yeah, you can add to this, like if you want. And then yeah, just literally massage it into the bag. Pop it in your fridge, and when you are ready to make this meal, whatever night of the week, if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it is, what you're gonna do is grab a baking sheet, line it with parchment paper, lay the chicken flat on the baking sheet, and then you can prep your zucchini. And really, this zucchini is super easy. The zucchini is, cut it into whatever shape you like, whether it's in rounds or whether it's in quarters. Toss it with a little bit of olive oil and sea salt, You can add a few spices if you want, if there's, you know, preferred spices that you like. And put it on the baking sheet with the chicken. And literally just pop it into the oven at 350. And while the chicken is cooking with the zucchini, that's when you can just spend a little bit of time chopping your mushrooms and stir frying your mushrooms and toss in that cooked quinoa that you've made today and warm that all up as a side dish. So there's a little bit of prep involved the night of, or again, goes back to what can you do the day before that's going to make your next meal that much easier. So if you want to slice your mushrooms before, go for it. If you want to, you know, chop up your zucchini before, you can do that the night before as well. And then there you have it. You have your meal prep maple Dijon chicken all ready to go for the week.
Yum. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I love trying new recipes, but as I said, I love the sounds of all this, and it's so easy. Gotta love it. And you can see such a difference too when you make the marinades yourself, right? And that's a big thing to talk about. Like, you're not getting any added preservatives, you're not getting added extra sodium, which is super important. For me, being a healthy type 1 diabetic, like, I've never been more cautious of reading labels and making sure that I understand, if I am buying something prepped, that I know what's in it, right? And so this is why it's so important that if you can take out a little bit of time to make your own marinades and make flavorful dishes, you know what's going into it. And as Irene said, have some fun with it. You know, if you tend to eat a lot of Asian food, for instance, and you love ginger, or whatever the case may be, or you're a garlic family like we are. I always laugh. My husband adds, like, whatever recipe it says, like 3 garlic cloves or 2 garlic cloves. He's like, okay, that mean 5 or 6. Figure it to whatever you want, you know?
Yeah.
Anyhow,
So
that's great.
Yeah. So how's everyone doing? Does anyone have any questions or want to just, you know, pop in their own tidbits?
So I was going to say, I thought have you guys heard of coconut aminos?
Yes,
Yes.
you can use that.
Okay, because I thought I had some and I was out, and I have Worcestershire sauce, and that's about it right now.
Yeah,
What do you
so
think?
you can use that. You can use that. Coconut aminos is like a tamari.
Yeah, that's what I usually use, but I thought I had some and I don't, so I just didn't want to ruin it with the Worcestershire. You think I'm okay?
I think you'll be okay.
Okay, I'm going for it then.
Yeah, try it and let us know how it is. You may have just developed a new recipe, Tanya.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Irene.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my turkey first because I didn't know what order you were going to do it in. Maybe I didn't read, but I got lots going in the kitchen because our family's leaving today. So some were making breakfast early, and so if you see people, that's what's happening. But it's
Good.
you know, it's like kids, right? They're in and out. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it's
Janice is in Mexico. That's what I also meant to ask people to type in where you're tuning in from. It's so fun.
Yeah. Tanya, you're in Chicago?
I'm in Chicago,
Yes.
in the US.
In the US.
Yeah, so we've got Chicago. I'm in Markham, like Irene is, which is near Toronto. We've got Janice in Mexico. Colette, where are you tuning in from?
I'm just outside of Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. What's
And
the temperature in Medicine Hat right now?
What's that?
Temperature like right now in Medicine Hat?
Well, right now we're at +3 and we don't have any snow. It's actually quite nice here. Yes. We've had a wonderful winter.
I was gonna say, I pictured you were gonna say like -20 or -30.
No, we woke up to +3.
Nice.
And so just to go back to this recipe that Irene is making, I think it's really important to mention right now too, you know, she mentioned it quickly, and I think it's important just to touch on the fact that cost of food right now is so crazy, right? With so many people, like Melissa often says, I feel like I'm going to take a mortgage payment out when I'm going to the grocery store, especially when you buy really nice meats and vegetables. But we obviously want to make sure that we're pinching every cent and making cautious decisions. And when you are choosing your meat, like for instance, my husband found drumsticks on for a great price yesterday. We often do thighs, but it's just being flexible, right? You sometimes have to kind of make some edits and whatever works for your family. And also, depending on what you like my two girls who are only 8 and 10, they like eating off a bone. And it took us years to figure this out. So instead of getting a deboned chicken breast, we now buy drumsticks a lot or thighs with bone in. And it just is sort of like one of those simple things, right? But you obviously want to make sure when you are going to the effort that your family's going to enjoy it, that you're going to love it, and that your family is going to like it. If you do have a family that's, not just you having to cook for. So with that said, if there's no questions about this specific dish, we will start to segue over
a bit.
What's that?
So I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about food, the cost of food and food waste. So these lovely bananas have been sitting in my bowl for way too many days. They need some TLC. Normally, I would probably throw them out because they do not look appealing at all. And that would be me back in the day. But now with the price of food and knowing the way I've changed my diet so that I can have healthy meals ahead, I will peel them, chop them, and freeze them so that I can add to my smoothies, my baking. Sometimes even like if I want to have a quick oatmeal, I'll toss in some frozen bananas and frozen strawberries on top. Beautiful. Look at all those bananas. Oh my God. That's amazing.
That is incredible.
Well done.
That's the only, you know what? I'll get them by the case lot. I ask them, the stores, if you happen to have boxes of mushy bananas. And
Smart.
Typically, if you ever notice, girls, in the stores, the bananas never change in price. It's always 77 cents a pound.
Right.
So usually when they're mushy, you get them 30% off. I will get a case lot and I'll load my deep freeze up so I'm full, because I use bananas every day in my smoothie. And I cut them up and slice them up, and the mushier, the better, because they're cancer fighting, the more mushier they get. So the bananas sitting on your counter right now, Irene, are perfect. Get them as mushy as possible.
Yes, yes. Well, this is the thing, right? Like Sam, like anyone who knows me knows that I love green smoothies. So having a banana added to a green smoothie is like the perfect way to sweeten it. And then I'll always use my Juice Plus Complete in my smoothie.
Yep.
I prefer the vanilla one when I have green smoothies. My kids love the chocolate. They do a quick cold chocolate milk, whether it's like pre-game or pre-practice or post-game, post-practice. These are just readily available in my pantry at all times. And there's some days where we go through 4 of these sachets because everyone is having one during the day.
Yeah.
Me, I say to the kids, have as many as you want, no problem. The other thing too is I have the bars, the Juice Plus bars.
Yep.
Again, like throwing them in the hockey bag, throwing them in the soccer bag, so the kids have something when their games are done, because they're famished.
And that's the thing, like just to talk about what you just talked about with respect to shakes. So it's called a naked shake, right? So you just take your serving of sachet, you throw it in with your nut milk or your oat milk or whatever the case may be. My daughter Madeline has probably been doing that since age 4. I kid you not, maybe 5. She's now almost 8, and she does it on her own. And I love that fact because you're not getting all the sugar, right? And you're getting 15 different plants. And I love that. And if you were to look at the ingredients, if you haven't explored it yet and you want to know more, let us know, no pressure. But they're not only freaking delicious, they're not chalky, they're nice and smooth. And as Irene said, the flavor, it just enhances it without being overpowering. But I just love the fact too that it's low glycemic, so it doesn't spike your blood sugar. Super duper important. And we all know that we need more protein. It's interesting. I was listening to a podcast the other day by Jen Pike, and she was talking about as we get older, especially women, really understanding how much protein you need in each meal, and why it's so vital, like for building up the muscle. We know as we get older, unfortunately, we don't, we start to lose our muscle mass. And of course, if you're working out a lot, like a lot of us are on this call, it's really making sure to fuel up and properly fuel after you get that workout in. So with that said, I just wanted to, if you're all okay, to just quickly start to get into the chili making. We have about 20 minutes or so. We want to honor everybody's time. But this is a meal that I make at least, I would say, every other week. When you find a meal that not only you love and your family loves, and that's really great as leftovers, you want to make it on the regular. For me, it's great because I get my husband involved, and we often will start early in the morning, say on a Sunday morning, and you get all the spices done like we did last night. Actually, he did all the spices, and you can do this too. Just pre-measure them out when you're doing the food prep, and you could literally either leave it in a ramekin or throw it in a little container. And then when you go to make this dish, it's all ready to go. Just sort of like a quick tip, just to add in. So with that said, you probably already have your meat cooked on your stovetop like I do. And there is a true order of things, but let's be honest, you're going to start stirring the chili as you go. So don't be too exact. And one thing that I just want to mention, so, and I wish I thought to add this to the document. So we've got 2 different types of beans on there, kidney beans. But in my family, my eldest daughter, after we discovered a few years ago, she had some serious food sensitivities. One of them was red kidney beans, which was really interesting. And the kid is obsessed with chili. So obviously I don't put those in. What we've found that works really well is we use chickpeas and we use black beans. I love black beans. I'm like obsessed with them. And the other thing I started adding in over the last year, this is my youngest Madeline, the one who's obsessed with her naked shakes. So lentils, right? It's something that you hear about often, and I don't necessarily add them to regular dishes. So for me, chili is such a perfect way to just get it chock full of so much goodness and things that if you have picky eaters, and it's not just kids, let's be honest. I know people who say their husbands pick out little things. With a chili, you can get so much in there where people aren't apt to take those things out. And why I love adding this just gorgeous little thing called a lentil is that there's just so much goodness in there. There's tons of fiber. It's a lean protein. It's low fat. It has tons of health benefits. I was looking at it the other day because I knew that there was so much goodness, but I had to sort of look it up. Great for your gut health, great for your heart health, improving your mood, a source of calcium, also super important as we age, right? And the fact that it really helps with all the fiber, it helps to stabilize blood sugar. So with that said, have some fun with it. Try this recipe. You can edit different beans and lentils or whatever you want. And, you just kind of mix it up according to whatever you have in your pantry, right? And right now, that's so important to just use what you have and not overcomplicate things. So if you've got everything going, you've probably already got your slow cooker. I'm going to take the lid off. And one thing I didn't do, I heard my oven preheat. I'm just going to throw my key in my end before I forget.
Sam, you were talking about lentils, and you had your zucchini noodles already spiralized. Well, when we have pasta night here at home, because who doesn't love pasta? I typically will do the same, spiral the zucchini and add lentils to it. So there's my protein, and that really is my pasta dish. And whatever sauce I make with the pasta, whether it's tomato sauce or just a plain white sauce of some sort, I'll just add to my zoodle dish, and it's just as nourishing and filling for me. I'm not saying I'd never eat pasta. I do eat pasta, but there's just some days where I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that though. It's such a great way to get the plant protein in. And for me, like, I'm always looking for ways to make more plant-based dishes. And the thing is like when I do it, I'm always thinking, okay, how am I going to make it filling? Because my kids don't complain so much, but I notice it. So one thing that I've started adding a lot in to these dishes, hemp hearts. So if you haven't been buying hemp hearts, put it on your list. It's such a great way to get lots of great omegas, lots of goodness into your dish. no carbs, and it just makes it more satiating for you. And you're not up to have anybody pick it out. It just becomes part of the dish. I'm going to start adding lentils, and I'm going to do that on Monday night. So thanks for that tip. So with that said, get your slow cooker going. You're going to heat it to about a medium heat, or whatever you put it on. Based on today, like I'm going to make this chili and eat it today. So I have to always do the math. We're probably going to eat it because it's Super Bowl Sunday. We'll probably be eating it around 5. So like, depending on what your setting is at, I'm probably going to put my slow cooker on the 6-hour mark. Every slow cooker is different. I used to have one that was like low, medium, high.
That's the one I have.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've already.
If I know I'm going to be out all day, or if I'm working all day, I'll usually put my slow cooker on low because I know it's going to be on all day. But if I'm home, like for example, the chili for me, I'm actually prepping the chili today. I'm not going to actually eat it because I'm out for the rest of the day after this. So my meat is already cooked. I'm going to let it cool. I'm going to put it in a glass container, pop it in the fridge, and I'm going to prep all of the veggies and get that ready so that when I'm ready to make this meal during the week, I literally have everything, throw it in the slow cooker and turn it on and go. So this is just another meal prep, another prepped meal for me for this week. So I'll have the chicken, I'll have the quinoa, and now I have the chili. So there's 3 meals done and lunches the next day.
A rock star, Mom. Yeah, I could high five you right now. That's amazing. And the fact that you just said something so simple. It took me so many years to figure this out. You know, you think of like browning meat is so simple, but it takes time. So when you're already doing other meals, just get your meat in your pan, get it cooked. Like Irene said, let it cool, pop it in your fridge, and then it's ready to go whenever you're making that meal. So with that said, take your cooked meat, throw it in your slow cooker right now. This recipe is for turkey, but let me tell you, I've tried it pretty much everything. Even one time at Christmas time, we had tons of turkey because, you know, you always do with turkey. And sometimes I kind of get like sick of eating it the classic way. So I'm like, you know what? We had guests coming over on the Boxing Day. So I took a ton of turkey and turned it into this chili, and it was a hit. So have some fun with it. You can try leftover rotisserie chicken, turkey, ground turkey, whatever you want. Or of course, classic meat as well. I say classic meat, not classic meat. There's no such thing. Ground beef, otherwise known as ground beef. So put that in. You're going to get your red onion, or if you have another type of onion, that's fine too. I'm just going to grab my onion. So we did this last night. Hopefully you ladies did too, but if you didn't have a chance to do it, don't worry. Start doing it now, and then you can just continue to compile even after this call is done. So I'm just throwing all
Sam, because I had these ready to go, my pretty veggie jars, I'm literally going to take these out, chop them up. So I've just made it even easier now to get my chili ready because I have this already prepped.
I love that.
So on the marinade, well, how long would you say? At least a couple hours?
For the chicken marinade?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can keep it overnight. I'm going to keep mine overnight in the fridge and cook it tomorrow, but a couple of hours should be.
I want to try for today.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking.
So when do you plan on having your meal?
Well, 9, 10, 11, 12, like 3 hours maybe.
Yeah, I would just the longer the meat marinades, the tastier it's going to be, Tanya.
Okay.
100%.
I want to try to go for it today.
Yeah, go for it.
With my chili, I don't think I'll be ready. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
That's great. And just that just made me think while we're adding our veggies in to the slow cooker. So when you have leftover chili, okay, there's so many ways you can repurpose it. We typically, because we have little kids, right? And thinking about lunches, so many of us like grown, like what again am I going to make for them for lunch? My kids love chili. They love hot lunches. So we so often will send that off. Sometimes we'll even, when we're feeling super nice and cool, we want to throw in some tortilla chips and really make it a fun dish for them. And then for myself, I often will take the leftover taco or leftover chili meat, or if I have taco meat, and I turn it into a taco salad. So that's like, for me, that's like the ultimate. When I have leftover chili and I can do another meal that week and turn it into like a full blown, beautiful nourish bowl, you know, you're getting so much goodness in one quick meal, right? You have your lettuce. If you have a tower garden like Irene and I do, Janice probably has how many? I don't know. It's such an amazing thing because you have how many? 3? Yeah, awesome. Which is an aeroponic growing system where you're growing your greens. You can grow lettuces, you can grow fruit, you can grow like strawberries even, tons of herbs, spices. It's so great because then you just go, there it is. Look at our tower, girls, or ladies, I should say. Beautiful. Oh my gosh. So for Janice, for instance, imagine taco night, right? She goes over to her tower, snips off or even just rips off what she needs to make these beautiful bowls. And then, you know, you chop up some veggies, you've got your taco meat, heat it up really quickly, and maybe a homemade dressing, and there's a dish. Whether you can enjoy it for lunch or for dinner, it's super easy. So it's just really a matter of making it easy for yourself to get in more goodness, get in more veg, get in more fruit, get in more lean protein, and just making it easy, right? And it was interesting just listening to this podcast that I was tuned in the other day, because Jen Pike was mentioning, like, you know, so often we look at certain dishes as a dinner or as a lunch. But she's like, once we get that out of our head, you might enjoy this leftover dish as your breakfast, right? Especially like if you're like me who loves sweet potato, you know, it's something so comforting and so nourishing. So another thing, or I should say an easy thing to cook up when you are doing what we're doing, is cook up a couple sweet potatoes, right? So you could throw them in your oven. Or what I often do, I don't know if you've ever done this before, take some paper towel, moisten it, then you just get rid of the excess water, and you take your sweet potato and you know, slice it in a few areas, and then you roll it up, kind of like you're like putting it to bed, like you're swaddling a blanket, and you put it in your microwave and you cook it up. And then you can either leave it like that, or if you want to go one step further, just chop it up, like not chop it, but like slice it, for instance, and maybe put it in quarters, and then throw it in a glass container in your fridge, so that when you're making, say, that nourish bowl, you've got it ready to go. Another way that I like to use sweet potato, I actually slice it like toast, and then you can put it in your toaster. Mel Sagan, who was on the call earlier today, she got me doing that. And it was such a great idea, especially for lunches, when I'm like, what do I want? But I want something really tasty. I would literally just put it in through my toaster oven a few times over until it's nice and soft. And then if you have pesto, smear it with pesto, sprinkle it with hemp hearts. Really super simple dish, just as an idea. Anyway, if you
I do this.
Do you? What?
I'll slice it and put it in my toaster. I have a toaster oven. Now I actually have an air fryer. I got that for Christmas. So that is, I've been using that as well. But my daughter actually loves sweet potato toast in the morning. I will like mash up, or she does it now. She'll mash up some avocado, and she'll do avocado on sweet potato, and she'll make it like a savory breakfast. Or sometimes she'll just drizzle almond butter and a little bit of honey on her sweet potato and have that instead of toast.
Yum.
Great idea. Awesome.
I would never think that combination. But you know what's funny, Irene? I do that. I forgot about this. I use tahini a lot on sweet potato.
Yes.
The peanut butter, why? Yeah, why wouldn't I think to use peanut butter? Interesting.
She loves it. She'll add cinnamon, almond butter on a sweet potato toast.
Delightful. That sounds so good. I every so often have to mute because my 8-year-old keeps coming down and having like full conversations with me. I'm like,
That's okay. Real life, Sam. Real drama. Here we go.
I wanted to tell you what I did with lentils last week.
Oh yeah, tell me.
So you're supposed to soak them overnight, and then you put them in your blender.
oh,
And then this lady took the frying pan and she put oil down in the frying pan. She used coconut oil, and you know, just a little bit, just to oil the bottom. And then she poured it like pancake batter and made herself a wrap to put her salad and all that stuff in. And I tried it, but I think my lentils soaked up too much water because it's supposed to look like pancake batter, but it was very runny. So I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to use less water. So if I have success, I'll DM you guys and let you know what my ratios were. But the first time was a fail. But I thought, what a great idea,
Great idea.
make
I
your
love
own wrap with it.
You know what? It's so
Yeah.
funny you say that because just someone last week posted a TikTok video and it was sort of the same idea. They'd made this quick wrap with lentils and something else. I can't remember, but it was brilliant because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to always just buy a regular wrap with like,
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Right.
To make it with something that's so fiber rich and dense with so much goodness. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I got to dial it in for sure though, because it was a disaster. So the thought was good though.
You
First
tried.
looked beautiful.
That's great.
I'm adding in cauliflower to my chili because I don't do well on beans. So I thought, what the heck? I'm going to add it in with mushrooms. So we'll see. My husband can't eat chicken because the lectins in his body don't work with the lectins in chicken, but they work with turkey. So this is a perfect recipe.
Great. Janice, why don't you tell us about those lovely egg bites you're making? You put it in the chat. So I was
Yes.
like curious.
Okay, so we started off, I mixed up, I do 7 eggs to make 12 little egg McMuffins. And then we put in onion, pepper, what else did you put? Tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes, and then we'll put cheese on the end, whatever your favorite is. And I have one of these toaster ovens. I love it, love it. And this is what they look like. They puff up more, but then, they fall when you open it. I guess that's just part of it. But this toaster oven, I did a 25-pound turkey in it for Christmas. I hardly ever use my oven. And it does everything from baking, confectionery, heating pizza, it does popcorn, veggies. So that's my new tool. I love it, love it. So yeah, these are my favorite breakfasts now. Oh, we put basil, fresh basil in from our tower garden always. And I get a basil dressing here that's the most amazing I've ever had, and it's fresh from the market. And I added that in, and these were my favorite so far. So you can experiment with your favorite vegetables. I think, Rod, you put in carrots too, shredded carrots. So you can just put so much in, and they're delicious.
I love that.
I
had egg bites. Sorry, keep going.
Sorry, I made egg bites a few weeks ago using the ground turkey meat. So I had cooked up so much ground turkey meat, that same thing like Janice, I mixed again from that meal plan I was following. It was great. I mixed all the eggs and salt and pepper and some, I can't even remember what veggies I used, but I had this ground turkey already sauteed and ready to go. I just put the turkey in the muffin tins, poured the egg mixture on top and baked it. Again, it was like a hit with the family because quick breakfast. If we're rushing in the morning because we've, slept in or just taking our sweet time, grab it and go.
I love that. I literally, this is what I was going to say. About maybe 3 weeks ago, I had egg bites on my brain because I'm a breakfast girl. I love breakfast. And I'm in this rhythm of making breakfast bars, which I'll talk about in a sec. And I'll show you what they look like. But anyways, I saw this, I went onto Instagram, and this woman was showing a video of her TikTok video in her gorgeous kitchen making egg bites. I'm like, oh my gosh, why don't I not make these? Right? I even had it on my list. I put it in my calendar, like make egg bites so that I don't forget. And then life got busy. So I love that you ladies already do it. And if you have a specific recipe that you want to share, be sure to send it to us. Even Janice, if you want to send it to me, and we can distribute accordingly. Because honestly, I think this is the success, right? When you feel like you have a community there that you can lean into, you can share tips and tricks, share your favorite go-to meals, like it's just the best, right? Some of my most favorite meals I've got from my teammates and vice versa. We share cookbooks, like our go-to cookbooks, right? With like amazing recipes. Something else that I often do, and I can't even take credit, my husband got into this rhythm. When I would tell him about certain new cookbooks, or they're getting a lot of accolades on TV or whatever, he'd be like, Sam, why don't I just check the library and see if we have it and see that we like it before we buy it? So literally he'll put them on reserve if they're not available. He picks these up, brings them home, and then we decide, is it something that's a total like must buy because you love every single recipe? Like Yum and Yummer, that's like one of my favorite cookbooks. Or is it like there's just maybe 1 or 2 recipes that maybe or maybe we don't photocopy? You didn't hear that from me. So just a quick tip. So with that said, you've probably already added your turkey to the crock pot. You've got your red onion, you've got red pepper, 1 green pepper, and of course, if you have other colors of peppers you'd rather use, that's cool too. You've got your 2 large carrots diced. You've got your 2 stalks of celery diced. Obviously, totally optional. If you like a lot of spice in your chili, you can add that large chipotle pepper. I don't, because I have 2 littles that they don't like too spicy. But this is where it gets really interesting. This is what makes it so cool, because the flavors are a little bit different than your classic chili. The cumin, okay? The cumin is what really kind of takes on a different sort of spice. And then, of course, the classic, you've got chili powder, 2 teaspoons of that. And speaking of interesting flavor, there's a real difference between paprika and smoked paprika. So I don't know if you have both. Mike, who loves to cook and often is buying different spices. We even did a taste test recently of a smoked paprika, and you really can taste the difference. So if you happen to have it, great. If you don't, just use regular paprika. And then you've got 1 teaspoon of your dry cilantro and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And then, oh, this is what makes it. I don't know if you've done this before, but you add the cinnamon. And you can also, so it calls for a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. Sometimes I'll like liberally even put in a full teaspoon because I am a cinnamon girl. I love it. And you can even make, when you're making just like your classic chili with meat, I learned years ago from one of these top chefs that his secret ingredient is cinnamon. And it really pulls out the beautiful flavors of the chili powder and the paprika. So you can play around with that a little bit. For the tomatoes, I just use the no-name diced tomatoes. I actually like the one that comes with the herbs and spices, but whatever you've got. The other thing I want to mention though in this recipe, it calls for 2.5 cups of water. When my husband makes it, he follows it to the T of the recipe. When I make it, I don't always put as much liquid in it because I really like a thicker chili. So you just can tailor it according to your tastes and what you like in terms of texture, and then make notes on the paper, right? Whatever you use this time, you'll remember the next time you make it what you prefer. I probably today, so I'm just about to take 1 can, or I should say 1 cup rather, which is probably about a half of this big can, which is 796 mils. I'm going to add it in. And this recipe, interestingly enough, I just realized why I don't add as much water. Mike follows this to the T. When I make it, I tend to add a full jar of spaghetti sauce. Okay, I like the Classico. It's just one of my favorites. But that being said, ladies, you don't necessarily need it because there's so much flavor of all the other spices, and it's going to thicken up as you go. Like the tomatoes will nicely thicken. So you can decide if you want to throw in a jar of spaghetti sauce and, take the water and put it in half. So instead of 2.5 cups of water, maybe you throw in a cup of water in a jar of spaghetti sauce. Totally up to you. And then you're going to add the beans. So here's the deal. I add the beans at the beginning. I always have. Especially when it's a busy day, before I'm leaving the house to go to see clients, I'll put it all together. And then it took me years. I went back and I'm like, oh, they actually say to add it at the end, literally on the recipe. So it's cooked for a high of 4 hours. And then you add in the kidney beans and you cook for an additional half an hour. So I say that out loud because if you've got, or yourself, you're texture driven, right? Certain people like certain things a certain way and how it's going to taste. I'm okay with the beans being on the softer side, but if you'd rather them be a little bit more, not necessarily firm, but like just slightly tender, then you're not going to want to add the beans right at the offset. You're going to wait and follow the instructions and figure out what time you're going to eat it, and then just add it in a half an hour before. So it's literally that simple, and I hope you love it as much as I love it. I've got, I think, this photocopy all throughout my house in every single cookbook that I add it, because of course, when it's busy, you want to make sure you can find your recipe instead of scrolling through Pinterest and, you know, getting lost down a rabbit hole. And that's another thing. If you're on Pinterest, I use Pinterest all the time. What about you, Irene? Do you use it a lot for recipes?
I do. I use Pinterest for a lot of things, mainly recipes, to find certain recipes. I absolutely love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say cinnamon in chili, I've never tried. So this is going to be the first time I'm trying it. So I'm super excited. And I'm going to just share something comical with you. So, you know, these carrots, I jam pack them in so badly, I can't take them out. So I really have to break the jar, like literally, like the water's coming out. So.
Can you try a fork? Like seriously, just put it in the center. Have you tried?
Yeah, I'm trying, but they keep breaking off.
You get tongs in there?
I've tried. It's all right. I'll get to it. I just don't want to like sit here trying to force it, but I just thought I would tell you it's quite comical.
Before we go, do you guys want to see our pool mural we finished?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't. So I'll spin this around. So here in this corner, the palm tree, this will be moved.
That's
a beautiful boat.
Wow.
That's gorgeous.
Janice,
and over here is a little island.
Yeah,
vacation there. Cool.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, as the artist over here, you know that I'm a professional artist. So when I see that, I'm like, that's some serious talent. That's a beautiful mural. Thank you. Not jealous at all, Janice, as I look out to my half green and half snow covered yard. Yeah. So anyway,
I think we need to plan a visit to Mexico.
What's that?
You think we need to plan a visit to Mexico?
Yeah, I think so. Well, there might be a trip coming up, Irene, that we're going to work towards. That being said, we do want to honor everybody's time. It is just after 11 o'clock. But it's so fun. I have to say, it's so fun doing these events. I love getting people in the kitchen and cooking together and sharing tips and tricks. And it's also great for me because now, you know, I've got my day set up for success. We've got friends coming over for Super Bowl later. My house is going to smell glorious. And it's one less thing that I have to think about. And even to Irene's point, when she was showing you, you know, the veg prepped, right? So I had done some prep obviously for this event, but made a point of getting some veggie sticks already ready to go. I've got cauliflower and broccoli, each in their own bag, so that when I pull out a platter later, can throw in some hummus or maybe some fresh guacamole. And it's just going to encourage people to reach for the good stuff. In addition to, of course, there's going to be tortilla chips and salsa and all the classic things. But I always say, if you can load up on the good stuff first, right, you're less apt to grab the other stuff that you're not going to feel as great about. So with that, yeah, if anybody else wants to share any tips or tricks or any comments or any more thoughts about what you might want to see more from this team, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thanks.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love it.
I'm in my happy place when I'm in my kitchen.
Me too.
Especially if I'm, you know, knowing that I've set myself up for the week. I don't have to worry about it, and it just eases that stress. And when I get that dreaded question, Mom, what's for dinner tonight? I know exactly what I'm cooking.
I know, right?
So the quinoa should be done, I guess, for everybody that had it in the oven. Did you pull your quinoa out?
Let's do a quick
Paulette.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous. This is my first quinoa.
Me too. I'm like, okay, now what do I do?
So take a look at it. Is all of the water absorbed?
Okay. I'll try. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Now what?
So now, if all of the water is absorbed, literally take it out of the oven, keep the lid on it, and just let it cool. Do you want to show it to me, Paulette?
Okay, let me show you.
Wow, mine looks great.
Okay, so here it is.
Yeah, you're good.
She has a Canadian tire too, huh?
Yes, I have a Canadian tire. She said that on, so I got 3 levels of Canadian Tire.
So do
There's
I.
3
So
levels.
do I. Okay, so
So just leave this
Alright.
like this now and let it cool.
let it cool for 10, 15 minutes, 20. You can let it cool all day, really. And then just fluff it with a fork, put it in a container and put it in your fridge and add it to whatever you want to add it to.
Love it.
You know, I've never had it in smoothies, so now I'm gonna try that because I'm a smoothie girl too, Samantha. Every day at lunch, I'm huge on green smoothies. I take it right from my tower, the Swiss chard and the spinach. So I'm gonna have to try today. I'll put some of this quinoa in it.
There's tons of recipes with smoothie recipes with quinoa. I was actually looking for a green one the other day. So just Pinterest it or Google
I
it.
love quinoa. It's a staple in my fridge. It's either that or like a brown rice medley. And
Yeah.
then I'll make, my salad with all my raw veggies for the
Oh.
week. And then the other thing that I find is, do you guys know or have Newman's dressing?
Yes.
Newman's.
So the olive oil and vinegar, I'll use the Newman's a little bit in there and then maybe put some feta cheese and some, peppers. And you can make it however you like it, but that's one of my favorite ways.
Which Newman's do you buy? Which one?
The olive oil and vinegar one.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just the most basic one, but it still has, a good spice blend in there.
Nice.
And speaking, I'm glad you bring
So I
that
don't even really add any spices to it. I literally just put the Newman's dressing and whatever raw vegetables I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll just use lemon olive oil. I'll keep it so simple.
Do you know what
Depends.
That sounds good too.
my simple go-to, I've been doing this for years, just get your nice quality olive oil and apple cider vinegar. And
Yeah.
apple cider vinegar, there's so many health benefits. For me, of course, being type 1, knowing that I have something that's going to give me so many health benefits, but it's low, it really helps bring down the glycemic level. That's why they always say, if you're ever going to have something fried, like a French fry or sweet potato, throw on some vinegar because it slows down the spike in your blood sugar. So for me, whenever I'm making anything, whether it's a Nourish bowl or a salad, just literally, I don't even mix my marinade ahead of time. I literally just drizzle it with Evu and drizzle it with lots of splashes of ACV and the apple. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. That sounds yummy. Yeah, I like that. I'll try that.
I always have apple cider vinegar. I actually don't use any other vinegar, but apple cider vinegar for whenever I use vinegar.
Oh, it's all right. Even on your French fries, hey? Interesting.
Yeah, I'll use apple cider vinegar. Sometimes I'll use balsamic, but I tend to cook with balsamic. Like if I'm cooking certain vegetables, like that zucchini for the chicken, you can drizzle some balsamic on it and pop it into the oven as well, and just gives it that.
Okay. All right, I have some. I'll try that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love all these tips, and I'm just realizing I've been totally neglecting the chat. So hopefully I haven't missed anything here before we go.
Well, I was for a long time too. So until I realized, oh, look, the chat.
Yeah. So one thing that Melissa Sagan said before she had to hop off, she said, every time you sit down to eat, see it as an opportunity to nourish yourself. I love that.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Gone are the days of just grabbing a quick bar, or if I am grabbing a bar, it's like the complete bar, something that has so many plants in it that we know, lots of high fiber. And as I say, making sure to go through that mental note of ticking all the boxes every time you're eating, making sure you have the fiber, the fat, the protein, the complex carbs like we talked about. What else here? We've totally inspired Mel. She's going to start cooking her quinoa in the oven. Never tried.
Yeah.
I love this. Okay, just reading through. Thank you for the tips, Janice, on the breakfast muffin. She's put that in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
So I am going to start making that. Yummy. Shredded carrot. Love shredded carrot. All great.
Oh, shredded. That was a good idea. Shredded too.
Yeah, you know what's funny about shredded carrot? I was saying this to someone recently. Like when I make salads and I add shredded carrot instead of diced, it's delicious on its own. Like you actually taste the sweetness of the carrot. So good.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
I tend to buy organic carrots for that reason, because they taste sweeter.
Mhm.
So Yeah, there's certain foods that I will always buy organic, and that's carrots and sweet potato, celery. What else? It's escaping me, but for sure, organic carrots. And whenever I do a veggie tray and people come over, they're like, where do you buy your carrots?
Really?
And I'm like, organic, because they taste so good when they're organic, opposed
We
to
want
not.
bad carrots, let's be honest. When you taste them and they taste like chemicals. Yeah.
By the way, I got a carrot out of the jar. So
Oh, awesome.
Good one.
Mine froze. Last week I did that in the jar, and then I got them. My
It
refrigerator
froze?
was too cold, and then the water froze, and I had frozen carrots. I wasn't happy.
I've gone
You
through
could have
that.
added it.
What's that?
You could have added it to your soup.
I
Frozen
know. I know I could have.
One
You know,
thing-
I always get like confused on what to do with your chipotles because I always open a big can and then I only use a couple.
Oh, okay.
You freeze them maybe and use it for chili next time.
You think if I freeze it?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. It's such a simple idea. Why don't I do that?
You can.
Literally,
Well, I
like,
think if you put it in a little container.
All right, I'm going for it.
yeah. One thing that I just wanted to mention, because I mentioned it very quickly in passing before we go, that I make these breakfast bars. And if you go onto Pinterest, you can search them, or if you want my recipe, I'd be very happy to share it. I got it from a friend who posted it in Instagram years ago. I screenshotted it, and in my photos, and this is a good thing just to take note of, because it's all about saving time. In my photos on my phone, I have it organized according to category. And so literally I have, like, we do a program each month called the Shred 10. I have Shred 10 friendly food. And so I have it in there. And then, you know, if it's dinner or whatever the case may be, but for breakfast bars, I've got it in there. And I literally whip up a batch. People laugh at me because I'll often bake at 10 o'clock at night, but these don't require any baking. It's like from 10 to maybe for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I quickly whip up a batch and I put it in my fridge so that it just starts to, you know, harden overnight. And then the next morning, and I just have to make note of this, in the metal pan, or in my pan, I put parchment paper. So when I put in the mixture the next day, all I have to do is lift out the parchment paper. Don't even really have to wash the dish. I cut it into 9 squares, cut it up, and then I put it in freezer bags. At least half of them I put in the freezer. The rest I put in my fridge. So I have 2 ready to go. Honestly, before I work out in the morning, because I don't want to have a smoothie and be bouncing around with the liquid, I have one of these just to give me lots of power and energy and fiber. And then after my workout, I have the smoothie. So just a quick tip for you. It literally, when I say it's changed my life, it's changed my breakfast routine. And I always thank myself for taking the extra time to make up a batch. So
You gave me that recipe and I've yet to try it. So
Oh my
Yes, I would love a recipe.
okay,
Yeah.
I will send it and you ladies will enjoy it.
Thanks.
Yes, so
All
this
right.
is so fun.
My
Thanks for having us.
What did you say, Irene?
So my tea was done. My oven was beeping. Sorry if you heard that in the background.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
But I just wanted to say thank you to those that joined us today. Like I said, this is my happy place. I'm happy to do this anytime. If anybody wants company food prepping, just give me a call. We can Zoom. Tanya and I have done it before.
I love
We've
it.
made
Girls.
yeah.
Awesome.
I just wanted to mention you can freeze the chipotle. Like I put them in little bags. I did a cooking class with like an online cooking class, and the chef mentioned that you can freeze, like you put it in little bags and you freeze the chipotle.
Okay, thank you.
So try that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it works. I do it.
Thanks.
Here's that.
Awesome.
And you happen to have tried it. That's awesome. Well, this is great. Thank you, everybody. So nice to see your faces and to be in the kitchen, not alone, and to have some fun conversation while we're at it. So thank you for tuning in. We did record this call. So if there's any of your friends that really wish that they tuned into this, please share it with them. We can get the recording off to you. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything we talked about, just follow up with us.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.
Happy
Thanks, girls.
Have a great Sunday.